Do you want to get high quality leads as a mortgage broker without paying for them? Well, in this episode of the Mortgage Business Mastery Podcast, that's exactly what I'm going to be unpacking. I'm going to share with you stuff that I've done with my clients in order to generate leads with them without having to pay a penny.
You're tuned in to the Mortgage Business Mastery Podcast with Ash Borland, helping mortgage brokers simplify success. Let's dive straight into it.
Hello, guys. Welcome back to another episode. Another exciting episode. I was losing track of what I was going to say then. Another exciting episode, yes. In today's episode, and I always love doing these. These are always a bit of a highlight for me anyway. So yeah, these are cool. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking all about lead generation secrets. So these are lead generation secrets, and they're effectively high quality leads without spending money. That's what I want to talk about for mortgage advisors today. I want to talk about these three buckets. I break these three buckets down in detail, but I'll do an overview with them at the beginning. And then obviously we're going to go way more in detail in this episode, but I break them in detail in the Mortgage Marketing Blueprint, which is a free course. If you've not yet got that, go to ashborland.com/blueprint. You're going to be able to get it there. It's a free course. I update it probably every year or two, depending on if there's new things to be added to it. And it's great. And lots of people have gone through it and lots of people like it. Now, yeah, we're going to talk about this today and talk about how you can generate leads for free, because at the end of the day, that's what many of us want to do. We don't want to be paying for leads. We don't want to be paying for things. And so hopefully you'll be able to move away with this one. So to start this off, we need to understand there are three buckets to put things in. Now, if you want something visual, just so you know, if you want something visual, this is a podcast, so it's just me talking. It's just going to be me chatting. If you want something more visual, go and check out my YouTube channel, which is Ash Borland. There are tons of videos on there. They're not like this. They're not as relaxed and as chatty, but they are. They've got more visual stuff, tutorials on it, visuals, things like that. So if you want to see that, please go and head over there and subscribe there too. But for today's podcast episode, for lead generation, how to generate leads, we need to define leads into three categories. Now, the three categories I define leads in is referral, brand, and demand. Okay, so these are the three buckets that we put leads into. Now, for referral, what referral is I always say it's like direct lineage. It is your clients referring other people. So it's not your friend referring somebody or me referring somebody to you, for example. It's only if that person has done business with you. So only if you have done the mortgage for them, should you the person they referred, is that a true referral business? And the reason why is that and we'll talk about the other one in a minute, but the reason why it's important to understand is many people get referral wrong. They actually confuse it with demand, and it's not the case, because referral, when it compounds properly, it is like a family tree. It's like that you worked with this person who sent you that person who sent you that person, and it builds upon it, and that's how it compounds. So we have referral. So that is direct, direct lineage. You then have brand. Now, brand is they don't know you and they don't need you when they first find you. So what that means is that these are people who don't actually need you at the point when they meet you, but when they first meet you, they're like, okay, cool, I don't need a mortgage advisor. And then over time, these people will build over time, and to the point where you become, when they need a mortgage, when that demand comes into place, you are the only person they're going to. It's like you are the advisor. And this is very common with people who use social media. When you do it long enough, people are like, well, and I get this with what I do, people will say, well, Ash, I'm never going anywhere else. You're the only guy. And that's a brand lead. And then a demand lead is somebody that's a don't know you, does need you. So if you think about it this way, referral is does know you, does need you. Brand is doesn't know you, doesn't need you. And demand is doesn't know you, does need you. And so demand is people who need a mortgage right now, and they will, search you, find you, or they'll go to their friend who hasn't done a mortgage with you but says, do you know a mortgage advisor? And they say, yes, I do. It's John or it's Becky. And they'll go, great, go and speak. That's where we get that confused, as that's not a referral, that's a demand lead. So we need to understand these three buckets. And when we understand these three buckets, And these are like the lead generation secrets. When we know these, we can then pull certain levers in order to be successful with these. So this is really important to define. Many times with mortgage advisors, what we struggle with is defining how we generate the lead. But once we know how to generate the lead, the rest of it is off to the races. It's not as difficult as it looks. So that's how we do that. So let's talk about referral. How do we build referral? Because referral is always the best leads. They're in order. Referral is the best. Demand is the second. And referral is the best. Brand is the second best. And demand is the least favorite one. But in a good spread, we want all of them. But this is just important. Now, how do we improve and generate referral business, referral leads? So referral is all about maximizing your process to increase satisfaction for advisors, for the client. That's it. I'm sorry, I've got an ulcer in my mouth, so if I'm sore, my mouth is like killing me. So I'm trying to talk without getting sore. It's annoying. So I just bit my lip too much. It's stupid. It's my fault. So no sympathy for me, but it's great when you're talking on a podcast. So maximizing this process to increase client satisfaction. That's what we need to look at. So how do we look at that? We have to look at how in our process are we creating outcomes that the client is raving over. And this is why in the Mortgage Business Mastery program, the coaching program I run, many people, when we work with them, this is what we're looking at. This is what we're looking at. How do we maximize this experience so that people love it? But we do all of this. We do referral, brand, and demand. That's the whole idea. So the idea being, how do we maximize the situation that means that people want to tell other people about you? And that starts by creating a standard level of service within your business. So standard level of service within the business is vital. So we need to get people loving what you do. And you do that by looking at the process. So maximize the process to increase client satisfaction. So that's following up with them where you can, touch points where you can, sending them things where possible, increasing the experience to make them feel more heard. And there's so many things you can do with this, but that's and I'm not going to go into all of them on this episode, but the whole over idea is how can you look at your service and how can you make it better for the client? Now, better doesn't mean you have to do more. It could be that you do less, but you do less in a clearer way. Think about it, get creative. The second thing is, how do you ask for those? We need those testimonials and referrals. So how do we ask for them? So in referral, what we need to think about here is a thing called the peak end effect. Now, just an overview of what this means. The peak end effect is that people are often more likely to remember during a transaction the peak of the experience and the end. They don't really remember the rest. So the height of the emotion, and the peak can be whether it's really good or really bad. The peak and the end of it could be the peak of frustration, but it's the peak of emotion, the highest peak of that. And then the end. And when we know these things, and we know that's how people work, and we do know how people work, then what happens is we need to use these to increase the chance of testimonial and referral. Because testimonial is going to increase social proof and going to increase people warming them up. So peak end. You ask for a testimonial on the peak and you ask for a referral on the end. Yes, you ask for referrals as well. So this is something that people don't do, but you do. So at the peak of this emotion is going to be the mortgage offer. It's nearly always going to be mortgage, or not nearly, it is mortgage offer. So at mortgage offer, this is the peak of the experience through working with you. The reason why it's important, why is this a peak? Because if you're in a purchase, and I use purchase nearly all the time because people want to talk about REMOs. REMOs are pretty basic in comparison to purchase, and purchase is where you're going to win the best business. So focus on your purchase business. The REMOs will take care of themselves. Honestly, if you're focusing on trying to do REMOs, it's very hard to add value in a REMO situation. But that's a different episode for a different day, I'm sure. Now, if you ask for a testimonial at a mortgage offer, you are currently the only person in that process that's actually done what you said you were going to do. You're the only person that at the end of that, effectively the end, solicitor hasn't completed on the house, the estate agent hasn't completed on the house, so you're the only one. So at this point, you're the only one who's delivered what they said, and you're doing it when most of the time they're going to be frustrated, and so they'll feel happy and excited. So that's when you ask them. Mortgage offer's done, great. Can I get a testimonial? Can I get it on Google? Can I get it wherever you want to put it? Doesn't really matter. Google probably the best. Then the end effect, the peak and end effect, the end is where you ask for referral. So when they've completed and moved in, you would, and this is all in the blueprint, so do go at the blueprint. This will, what you then do is you go in and you would send them some sort of customized card saying thank you. You want to make sure it's good at the end. You can send them hampers. I'm not a big fan of that stuff. It costs you too much money. Don't send them just branded, like ABC Mortgages card. That's rubbish. No one cares. It's all about you. You got to make it about them. But that's when I would usually message somebody about 3 to 4 weeks after they've completed, and I would say, how are you settling in? Hope everything's going okay. And then I would go, I just wanted to let you know, I absolutely loved working with you. So I loved working with you. You were like my ideal client. It might sound a bit strange, but if you have anybody else who you think would be a perfect fit for my service, just like you, I would absolutely love it, because it would make my day. And that's all you say. And that leaves it out. They'll go, oh yeah, cool, I'll think about it. I know someone, I don't, because what that does is it leaves it with them. It's not, and this is the thing you don't want to do, so it's high quality leads without spending. Don't be doing referral programs. Referral programs are a really bad idea. They cheapen what you do. They make it nowhere near as valuable. People will look at it in a cheap way. It's really not a good idea. Plus, it's transactional now. Now it's like, if I send you leads, I'll get like a £50 voucher. Do I really need the £50 voucher? And as people go further up, most people will be like, I can't be bothered for the £50 voucher, to be fair. And I do this with affiliate stuff. I often look, I'm like, could I be bothered to refer them and then take the responsibility? No. So I won't. And that's really important. Don't offer referral schemes. If you are offering them, be better in your service, be better at your peak end, at the peak end effect, and stop paying people to refer, because you're bribing. It's bribing. It's not bribing, but it's that you're saying, please refer me. You want people to want to refer you because they think you're great. That's how this stuff compounds. And the final thing for referral is, weirdly, it's like newsletters. So newsletter emails, creating newsletters alongside this. Once the client is in, how do you have contact with them after they've become a client? So email newsletters is really, really cool. Once a month, some sort of value-driven piece of content that will constantly remind people you're here. That is going to boost referrals too. So let's move to brand. Brand, like we said before, is more about trying to find people online. This is more of an online thing, and it's more social media you'll think of. Now, what would I do first with brand? Remember, we have to be in the boundary of not spending. Create videos that bring awareness to you on social media. So the first thing I would be doing is I would be doing 5 to 7 days a week, really 7 if you can, but 5 is, when I work with clients, I'm like 5's okay. 7's asking a lot. But personally, I do 7. You should do 7. That's the best way to do it. But 5 is okay. But creating video that is bringing awareness to you all the time. And this is things like, just mortgage related stuff. And it can be any type of mortgage related stuff. I've spoken about it in different ones. It can be stories. It can be FAQs, so frequently asked questions. It can be news. That's another one. So, but it's constant and it's nothing else. Don't talk about anything else other than what you do all the time, and just keep pushing that out. The more you do that over time, it will increase and it will happen. Now, the reason why it'll take about 18, you have to look at this, I talk about this a lot, it's this idea of passive and active clients or prospects. Passive and active prospect. And a prospect is somebody who has not yet become a client. An active prospect is somebody who's ready to get a mortgage. A passive prospect is somebody who isn't. Brand is made up of active and passive prospects all the time. This is pretty much where they are. Referral and demand, always active. But the brand has the both. Passive prospect is somebody who doesn't know you or doesn't need you right now, as I've said. So these are people who are on a 2-year fixed deal, but they're halfway through. They can only use you in that 6-month window when they actually can remo. And they can, same with, and then if it's a 5-year, they can only use you there. 4.5 years, they can't do anything. So these are passive prospects. So no matter how much content you make, you're not going to force them to take an ERC. It's not going to happen. No, no one's that charismatic. I trust you. That's not going to happen. So, or you shouldn't even do it either. But what I mean is that's what people do. And that's why people get frustrated with social media. They're like, well, it's not working. You're like, well, no, it is working. It's just that it's a very long time horizon before you start to really see the compounding effect. And it's why you see clients like one of my very, very long-term clients and a very good friend of mine, Anish Patel, who is now crushing it. And he's crushing it on social media, on lots of platforms. He do other things as well. He's doing YouTube and other things like that. He's doing very well. And the reason why is because he's had years of compounding growth. It's exactly the same thing that I have with what I do with this business, but it happens in the mortgage stuff. Carla Edwards does the same. Anish does the same. Emma, the Sherlock and SS80 people, they do the same. It's the same. These are the people I've worked with for like 5 years. The compounding effect of this is massive. So you want to create content that just brings awareness to you all the time. That is so important. But remember that they are not going to be like all clamoring down. I think that's what people get upset about. They're not going to be rushing down and going, I need to use you. They might be in a passive state. And if they're in a passive state, they're still seeing it. They're still seeing what you do. They're still seeing it and going, might be for me in the future. So don't get put off by that. The second point then from there is you want to look at with brand, if you're trying to generate leads as well, this is where networking comes in. And the ultimate networking thing here is a podcast. It is a podcast by far, hands down, nothing comes close to it. 4N and BNI and all that stuff, they are rubbish in comparison. Now, what would I be recommending to do with this? I would recommend you start a local business podcast and you interview local business owners. Now, why is local business owners more important? Because you can hear people say, and some people will say, and I've seen it in the past, interview, local figureheads and things like that. You can do. But really, local businesses. The reason why is mortgages for business owners is always going to be a necessity. People are going to need it. Self-employed people always struggle to get mortgages. So that's the first one. Because they do. They themselves struggle. They feel like it's hard. So that's the first reason why. But the second reason why is that these people specifically, and they don't have income protection, they don't have any of that stuff. So there's a good opportunity generally. But also these people know the value of, well, there's two things on top of that. They know the value of marketing and promoting. So they will promote your business where if they can, because they understand that they're in the same boat. And if you're bringing them onto to a podcast to talk about their business, nothing to do with mortgages, they will then talk about you to other people. They'll respect that. It's that game recognizes game. They will understand that. Plus, they themselves have a business, so it means they have footfall. So they're constantly speaking to new people all the time. And that means that if they speak to somebody who needs a mortgage, there's a much higher chance they're speaking to more people than the average person who works with the same 10, 15 people in an office, 6 people in an office every single day. You want people who are meeting new people all the time. And so business owners, local business owners, is normally the way to go. That way you become very well known locally, you support the local community, and if you're making content on your social platforms about what you do, it will naturally filter across and people will start to realize that's what you do too. So you do want to very much focus on trying to be both well known in the local community as just being a business owner, and then also doing what you do on social media and demonstrating mortgages on social media. So those are those two things. That's how you build brand, and you will generate leads, high quality leads, by doing that again over time. And then the final one on brand is sponsorship. So local sponsorship, really great. So local sponsorship will allow you to sponsor local football teams, things like this. Again, we're just trying to bring awareness to who you are and what you do. And as long as people keep seeing you, you'll win. So these are those things you need to be looking at for brand. That's how you would generate leads in brand, in my opinion. And then we'll move to demand. So demand is about just-in-time stuff. Now, truth be told, if you are referral and brand stuff will naturally bring with it, demand will happen anyway. So you're always going to have demand. And this is where you'll notice for people who they'll go, if their business is only built on demand, you'll notice more peaks and troughs. And if you are finding that sometimes you're super busy and sometimes you're really quiet, just so you, like, for an extended period of time, not like I'm quiet for a week, but I'm quiet for a good couple of months, then you don't have a strong enough referral or brand system to generate leads. You are solely or very heavily reliant on demand. That's the biggest sign. That is the symptom. It's that. And if you're like, oh, I don't know, I've got lots of referrals. No, you don't. You have demand business. That's what it is. And if it's up and down, the clients I mentioned earlier who I worked with for a long time, they don't really have those. Of course, they have quiet weeks. Everyone has quiet weeks. I have quiet weeks. But They are not as much as I'd like. But those things are realistically, like they're not got the peaks and troughs the way that you see. They're not going up and down like a yo-yo. And there are many people who do. I know they do, because that's what I have conversations with. And when people have discovery calls with me, that's one of the things that we talk about, is they're like, I need to get some stability in my leads. And so demand is that. And demand, so demand will come from, if you make videos on social media, you'll pick up demand. If you're doing well and people are talking about you in general, you'll do demand. If you're doing podcasting, you'll get demand. So all of those things, because it's a demand lead. If you're podcasting with somebody and they say they refer, they recommend you, that's a demand lead, because you haven't done their mortgage. It's not direct lineage, as we spoke about before. So it is a demand lead. But there are ways you can also focus on getting demand leads yourself outside of that. So the first thing I would say with demand lead, and this is probably my favorite one with demands, is you can use two different things. You can use a browse kind of strategy or a search strategy. Now, a browse strategy is a interruption strategy, meaning that your content is pushed in front of people all the time. So like if you're on YouTube, on the front screen. Biggest one with the browse strategy, more like an ad campaign. So if you wanted to run ads, that would be that, but this is no spending. So obviously you wouldn't do that, but that is one of the big ones. You're pushing it in front of people. So a browse strategy is that you're appearing on someone's feed and they didn't look for you, but they do need you. And so by nature, your social media content that we spoke about on the brand section, that will do that anyway. So that will hit browse. So browse is one of them. That is, like I said, it's pushed in front of people who didn't necessarily ask for it, but they do need that problem. And so that's a browse strategy. The second one, however, is search. Now, search is huge. Search is huge. These are things like blogging, SEO, and YouTube. And really, you also have it on now platforms like Instagram and TikTok are becoming more search-based. And so search is about creating content that people are looking for specifically. They're actually looking for it. Now browse is they're not looking for it, but they happen to not like it. So if you look at any of the best example with stuff like this would be if you go and look at my YouTube channel, that is all search, pretty much. The Ash Borland YouTube channel, not the podcast channel. This podcast one, however, is all browse. And my Instagram reels and my videos, my short videos you see, all browse. There's no search on any of those. In other words, they're designed to get in front of people who necessarily go, oh yeah, I needed to think about that. But if you look at my Instagram, my YouTube, it is how to generate free leads on Facebook. It's how to generate free leads on TikTok. It's how to sell more mortgages. It's these very specific how-to things that we know people are looking for. Today's title is Lead Generation Secrets, High Quality Leads Without Spending. You're not looking for that, but when you see it, you go, oh, I'm interested. That picks up a demand. So these are the two different types of strategies that you can use. And it's important to know which one works. Now, search is where I think most people drop the ball on this big time in our industry. Is search is so powerful if you want to go and answer very specific questions. Sean Cannell, who's a YouTuber, talks about this a lot, and he calls it ASQ, which is answer specific questions. If you are answering very specific questions, you will not only rank on YouTube search, you will rank in Google search for video. That's where I get most of my traffic on my YouTube channel, is Google, not actually YouTube, but Google. People watch it on Google and go there. And those people are what sometimes referred to as just-in-time learning, demand. They are literally, I need this thing problem solved, search it, find you, done. And so this is why for lead generation, those search things are really important to pick up demand. They're not going to pick up anything else. They're not going to pick up referral. They're not going to boost your brand, because the brand, they'll find you on search and they'll go into brand if they're not ready, but they will be ready, because that's the whole idea. So these three areas, that's what I would do. So in a nutshell, that's how they're my lead generation secrets. If I was an advisor right now and I needed to start it all again, these are the things I'd focus on. I'd focus on making the best possible client encounter to improve the chance of them referring. I would try and make tons of brand awareness content around being very active every day, talking about the same thing every day. I would network with local people in a format out of podcasting, nothing else, because podcasting is so much better. I would sponsor local football teams and I would target search. And all of these things, by the way, are completely free. They're completely free. Only your time and maybe a little bit like investment on tech or something, but they're not expensive. And so these things, you focus on those, you'll absolutely clean up. Like clean up. It's super simple. That'd be my focus. Anyway, guys, hope you've had a wonderful episode this time, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
You've been listening to the Mortgage Business Mastery Podcast with Ash Borland. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to share it with a friend. If you have questions you'd like Ash to answer on the show, go to ashborland.com/question. Thanks for tuning in.